Now this is the part where I realized I forgot to post the Madea Boo movies on the Tyler Perry Tuesday review. So welcome to all of my movie lovers. Welcome to the next episode of Starling on Cinemas. That is Cinemas with an S. And today would be the review on Acrimony, but then I realized I forgot two movies, two major films in the Tyler Perry playlist that I just skipped by that I did watch and I did review prematurely, that I did type for prematurely. Now, obviously, the first Madea Boo review was intended to come out on Halloween, very timely and very prompt, and then Madea 2 was going to follow that. So instead of doing Acrimony today, this will be sort of an amnesty in a way, where I will be posting or be talking about Madea Boo, and I'll be posting my review on the sequel immediately afterwards. So you stick around for that. But if you are new, you know what the drill is. Subscribe, click that bell, keep up to date with all things SOS. So you can keep up with every opinion, every piece of information that I got to say on whatever movie I'm talking about. And likewise on Instagram, you know what to do. Follow me on my page. It might not be as helpful. It will not be as relevant as subscribing to YouTube, but you know how it is. I can get support. I don't mind the support on either one of the ends. So, trying to win the approval of her friend, 17-year-old Tiffany sneaks out of the house to go to a Halloween bash party at the Fraternity. The fun soon ends when police and the cranky, fast-talking Madea arrive to crash the party. Unhappy with this sudden turn of events, the vengeful collegians, if that's how you say it, collegians, decide to scare Madea and her cronies with a series of pranks. Soon she finds herself under attack and on the run from an assortment of ghosts, ghouls, zombies on the scariest night of the year. Exaggeration, obviously. My favorite Madea movie outside of, or second to Big Happy Family, Boo is one of the few movies by Tyler Perry that is not based on the play. Because, you know, if you don't know now, if you didn't know before, you know it now. All of his movies are not just direct adaptations from the plays that came before it. But it focuses more on being an entertaining Halloween comedy and focuses equally on the importance of obedience and the result of rebellion, which is the problem most of our generation has. I feel that the most solid thing about this film is the way it handles itself in quality and just how the fraternity drives the plot. Because the fraternity is hilarious. The fraternity is hilarious. The lead man, Jonathan, that man is ridiculous. Right off the bat, the fraternity is the reason for why everything happens in the story, from the party to the pranks and everything else in between. Watching it all unfold and play out might be plain entertainment, just basic entertainment, very concrete, very generic. But Tyler Perry knew what he was doing when telling a story centered mostly on the millennials. He made sure that we knew every single detail and piece of information before going into the second act of terror, such as who was involved with the fraternity. You know, like a hacker, which will come into play during the montage or during the series of pranks. This and a Madea Christmas, which would be timely if I was going to do that. If I had started the playlist at some other time in the year, and by the time we get to December, I would do a Christmas, but who cares? So those two feel very much like stage plays more than the rest of the Madea films in the way that everybody is portrayed. Especially for the fraternity, the frat boys, adds more contribution to everything else. Aside from the Halloween aspects, Boo puts a microscope on the troubles of teenage rebellion and fitting in when it comes to family dynamics or friend circles. Now, real quick, this is outside of the review. I learned that there is a big difference between fitting in and belonging. Where do you belong in? What I mean is like, what do you consider yourself to be doing a lot? Fitting in or staying where you belong? Most of us, you can say, is fitting in because that is a regular type of temptation that we as teens, if you're under 19, obviously, if you're preteens or if you're like 14, 15, 16, that is something that we regularly struggle with on a daily basis, just trying to fit in or trying to be liked by everybody, which, let me tell you something, it's okay to not be liked by people. It's okay to stay where you belong. You don't have to always fit into every situation or every group that you think that you ought to see yourself. But it's okay, because like what she learned here, She ain't no college student. She's only in high school. So the fact that she was at this party unvalidated, without any validation from either the fraternity boys, even though the frat only invited her because they assumed they didn't know what age she was. They just invited her just because. And then, Tyler Perry, the father, Brian, he's been saying no from the beginning, but consequences, people, consequences. So when it comes to family dynamics and friend circles, the trouble of teenage rebellion and fitting in comes into play here. But Brian, which is basically the character Tyler Perry plays when he's not playing Madea or Joe, is someone that's been there since the beginning, and we never knew he had a daughter, but we do now when you watch this. And the problem that Madea and her posse emphasizes in Brian is his lack of enforcement and tough love. They claim that it is the reason why his daughter Tiffany, overpowers him as a parent, and why his wife left him. What the heck is wrong with you? That's crazy as heck. Why don't you put your foot down and be a man? Put your foot down. That's why your dang kids walk around here like they ain't got no sense. Anyway, this might have come a little too late in the Madea canon, but it helps us to learn about a basic character that was there since day one. Rotten Tomatoes gives it a 19% recommendation. Boo! A Madea Halloween is a film where Tyler Perry focuses more on trying to tell a fairly hilarious and refreshing Halloween comedy instead of telling another story centered on melodrama or family dysfunction, and it's fun. It depends on how you look at it. So I will give this movie 8.6 Essos out of 10, a B+. But that is my review on the first Madea Boo film. You can let me know how y'all feel about it. Is this something you watch every year, every Halloween, or just on a regular basis? You can let me know in the comments below, and I'll see you guys next time in my next review. On second thought, when you have a movie and its sequel being released just a year apart, why not review those movies back to back? So this is my review. This is essentially part 2 of this video, the second segment of this video, where I give you my review on Boo 2. Essentially, Boo 2 and Madea Halloween, the follow-up to its predecessor that I said is my second favorite Madea film. So let's get started on this one. 1 year later, Tiffany travels to Derrick Lake to celebrate her 18th birthday at a Halloween frat party in the middle of the woods. Frantic and worried, Madea, Aunt Bam, Betty Ann Miller, and Hattie hop in the car to save her from the same terrible fate that befell a group of teens there years earlier. Chaos soon strikes when the would-be heroes find themselves fighting for their lives against an array of spooky monsters, goblins, and boogeymen. Okay, sure. Now, I hope we are all on the same accord when it comes to Madea Boo. When I say it is not as interesting or conventional as for Tyler Perry's taste. Madea Boo 2 felt like a more convincing horror comedy than its predecessor. It ain't no scary movie. Those movies are bad. I mean, maybe I question myself as to if I'll even review those on this channel or not. But this feels like everything about the movie is like any basic slasher horror, just with Madea in it. Only this time around, there are no pranks being pulled by any frat boys. This is the real deal. But it is not hard to see why. Like Perry's attempts to make an authentic horror film is such a misstep, it is not hard to see why. Aside from the context of Boo and Boo 2, I did mention if there is a Madea film or just a Tyler Perry movie in general that feels like a play a little more than what it is intended to be, then it might not be the home run you're looking for. This playlist has gone on long enough for you all to remember me saying that Tyler Perry is known for connecting with his audience through commonality and common struggle, especially if you're black. While most of his audiences are pointed towards black people, anybody is allowed to watch the Tyler Perry films. There is no law that says you cannot. But the seasonal Madea flicks for Christmas and Halloween are not ones that are known for orbiting around a central theme, but the attempts of bringing the holiday vibes in these movies are mixed bags. Madea Christmas had a bright holiday spirit in the Boo movies were attempts at trying to be scary. Luckily, they both failed. Most of the characters in the movie are either playing the role of the victim or will become victimized in the murder territory. We see the frat boys once again, Tiffany, her friends, Madea, Joe, Hattie, and everybody else make the same lame decisions that anybody in a horror film would when they end up in a cliche scenario involving a slasher, a killer, in a cabin in the woods when they are being hunted by a killer or they come across one. Come on, you know these people, these are black people, and you would expect black people to make the smartest choices. But for the sake of having a Halloween comedy, they're going to continue those same horror movie tropes and jump into that one broken cabin in the woods instead of just going to your house. Rotten Tomatoes gives this a 4%. Dang! While not as refreshing as the first movie, Boo 2 makes cheap attempts to create scares to an audience that may not follow horror films like that. I mean, if you're a big fan of horror movies, I mean, like if you love real horror, I don't think you will watch Madea Boo, because you know what you're looking for when you're a diehard horror fan, and what you're looking for is not what you will find in Madea Boo or its sequel. And her posse, but seeing Madea and her posse go through hell of the night is the only fun of it. So Boo 2 deserves a underwhelming score of an F50, just a 5 out of 10. At this point, so far, this is the worst Tyler. This is not the best one, not the best thing to come from Tyler Perry. But that is my review on both Boo and Boo 2 collectively. You can let me know what you think about both of them or one of them. Do you think one of them is better than the other? Or do you think both of them were good? Or both of them are bad? You can let me know in the comments below. Agree to disagree and beg to differ. And good night.